Hi, I'm Christine Poplau with Broadloom Business Management System. Today, my colleague Dan Seago and I will be discussing everything you need to know about taking a physical count of your inventory. Dan will discuss the steps prior to the count, how to count, and what steps you need to take right after the count. And I'll go into the steps on how to get your physical records of your inventory to match your general ledger. Dan, take it away.
Hello, my name is Dan Seago. I'm a senior onboarding specialist for Broadloom's business management system. Today, we're going to be discussing setting up for an inventory and doing a complete physical inventory. This first part, we're going to talk about just the pre-inventory preparation. And it's also just good business practice to probably do this to keep your system clean and able to work in efficiently. We're going to start with sales processing. We're going to go to the sales processing reports, and we're going to go to the open order report. Now, when I'm running this for a physical inventory, I only care about materials, so I generally uncheck these boxes. And for the preparation, I run it wide open. And so we start with that. Whenever I run that to Excel, I get a report that looks like this. And the main columns that I pay attention to are the install date and the line status. So if this job has already gone out, why is this job still open from 2016? So we can probably clean that up, find out why it didn't go, what the status is, and get rid of it. If it's a recent date and it should have already gone out, I should expect over here to see exactly what I do here, JCW. So it's job costed and work ordered. If it just says JC and it has an install date, you need to do the research and find out why it's still there. But in general, you want to clean up all of your orders that have been out there for a long time that have no reason to be there. Go ahead and get them cleaned up, close those orders if they shouldn't be open, and maybe put notes in on the orders themselves whenever you do your research, just so that everybody is clear if they go back and look at it later. So like I said, we're focusing on column F and column U for that part of it. After that, we would go over to purchase orders, and we want to clean those up also. I would go into purchase orders, and these are all the open purchase orders. These are live headers, so you can sort by that. So maybe I want to see the oldest. And why is this still here? It was ordered. Did we ever receive it? Why is it open anymore? If it shouldn't be open, then you can go ahead and close it and get that taken care of. After that, while you're here, you're going to run a report. We're going to go to receiving reports, and we're going to look at the AP not invoiced. So these are items that have actually been received that there was never an invoice recorded for the material in AP. This is important that you do the PO review process. It actually marks it. It also makes sure that your costs are correct in your general ledger for your inventory, and then for your cost of goods, and also for job costing. So whenever I run this initially, I'd probably back this up a year, and you would get a report that looks somewhat like this. And so why don't these have an AP item attached to them? So in this case, I did use dates just to segregate it, since I'm in a test system that has a bunch of bad information. But why is this one from the 7th? Why haven't I received the invoice on it? Now, this report does have to be run again after it's cleaned up, after you do the inventory, when you're actually doing the reconciliation. So I would run this wide open first, clean it up. The way that it gets cleaned up is by going through the AP open item and actually adding a 0 invoice if it's already been paid for, but doing the PO review and reviewing the costs correctly. So at this point, I've got that cleaned up. I've cleaned up my old purchase orders, done all of those items. The next thing that I would do while I'm getting ready for this, and especially right before, is I would go to inventory control, and I would do an inventory purge. On the inventory purge, you do have selections. So you can select by product code, or you can do all. If you select all, your maximum value is 0.99. If I was doing carpet, product code 01, then you're not limited, and you have to figure out what your pain factor is. I don't want anything that's 4 foot or smaller. And then I can go ahead and continue. This generally stays checked because we want to make sure that we have reviewed the PO during the AP item. So we just continue. Yes, we're sure. And the purge is complete. You end up with a report that shows you everything that was purged so that you can review it and make sure. So these were all 0 on-hand items. And at the very bottom, you get your total. So we actually removed $40 of value plus $3.20 freight. If for some reason you need to take a look at it for the history, you can reprint the previous reports. You can see here's mine right there. So after all of this is done, and this normally starts probably a month or maybe even 2 months out because there's a lot of stuff that has to be researched and cleaned up. Then you're ready to go ahead and move into right before the inventory starts, what you need to do then. And right before the inventory, you should first of all make sure that all of your items have tags on them that are legible. If it's barcode, if you're using the handhelds and you use barcodes, they should have barcode tags. If not, you should still have tags on them that make it very clear what the item is, so you don't have to research it in the middle of your actual inventory. If items that are being shipped that day, you should probably go ahead and work order those and physically segregate them in the warehouse. If that's not possible, probably put a copy of the work order on it and make sure to label it to do not count so that it does not get counted. Make sure that all of your receiving is completed. And then run your open order report again. But since you've done the research, you're not going to have to go as far back and just look and see. So I ran this for a couple days on the open order report. These 2 aren't work ordered, but they should be because it went out on the 15th. I'm going to make sure those items get work ordered. That way the system knows that they are not sitting in your warehouse. After all that's done, during the work order process, you should not be doing any work ordering. You can still invoice. That's not an issue. Generally want to make sure that those items were work ordered. But if you do not work order them, but you still invoice them, they will still be removed from inventory. You should not do any return to stock. If there's anything that needs to be returned to stock, segregate it, put it somewhere, and deal with that after the inventory. And with receiving, you should definitely set that to the side. If you do receive it in the system, make sure that you go ahead and inventory it. So scan the barcode if that's what it is, or write down that it's there. But generally, if you can just set it to the side and not actually put it into the system, you'll be in better shape, and then receive it after everything is completed. Now, we're going to discuss both doing the physical inventory with a handheld or doing it without a handheld using a report. If you're using the handheld, we'll start with that. You're going to use this on the handheld. I'm doing it in a browser so it's easier to see. I'm going to go to barcode scanner, warehouse, and we're going to perform physical. So the first thing it wants is for you to scan the barcode. There we go. Okay. At this point, you can see what the item is, make sure that that's correct. Even if this information is correct, you still want to go to edit quantity. You can adjust your quantity if you need to, or change the location, and then you can submit it. You must submit it. Just verifying that it's correct is not going to do anything. If you submit it, it actually takes it off of the items not scanned report that we're going to discuss after that. So you just submit. If you're required to use comments, you can type them in here, or if you set them up, you can use the template. Submit, And then you're ready for the next barcode. So that's essentially doing everything as far as scanning everything, go through the whole warehouse, take care of that. After that, you would come to inventory control, barcode management and printing. And we're going to do the inventory not scanned report by product. And assuming that everything was done, you would leave it wide open and click print. If you did your inventory over a number of days, you might want to go ahead and set your date range and then click print. This would show you everything that was missed. In this case, it's quite a bit because I only scanned one item in this system. This is what the report looks like. Now I'd say to the warehouse, okay, go out and look. Look, you missed all of location A. Okay, they go to location A, scan it all, make sure that we find all these, or if we can't find them, make sure that we note it. And at that point, you're ready to move on with the inventory. The items that are not scanned after everything has been double checked is you can go ahead and zero out, remove from inventory. That way you'll get a correct inventory valuation when you run that again. So the next part of this we're going to discuss is doing it using the using a report. If you don't have handheld scanners, we'll go to inventory control, inventory reports, inventory listing. Now you have choices here. This does print to Excel just fine, has the information on it, or you can actually print it directly to paper. Even if you print it to Excel, eventually you're going to have to print it out on paper so that your warehouse has something, or whoever's physically doing the inventory will actually have something to make their notes on. I'll print this to a PDF like it was printing to paper. And here's the inventory report, and it tells you what you have on hand, what's available, what's work ordered, and what's physically on hand. And that's what you want to key in on, is the physical on hand when you're actually counting in the warehouse. It also has a column for a number of units. So if it's something that does come in a box quantity, such as hardwood or tile, you could count the number of cartons. It would actually do the math to let you know how many cartons you should have there. You can see here, there's 25 on hand. There's 5 cartons of that item. So your warehouse can go through, mark off that it's verified, that that it is there, or make any adjustments they need to on this report so it can be entered later. So with the physical inventory, they're going to be walking around each section, making sure that they count everything, and then they'll have that paper to go back through and double check and make sure that they found everything. Now, whenever you make the actual adjustment, what you would take is your physical on hand plus your work ordered amount, and that would actually be entered into inventory maintenance. Whenever you're actually on the inventory amount, it is your physical on hand plus your work ordered amount is the amount that you will put right here. And that will update your inventory. So sometimes it does make it easier to have it in Excel, so it'll do the math for you using formulas. If not, you can always go ahead and just add it manually and then correct it here. Now, there are a couple notes on this. When you add, well, let's start with the comments. When you need to add a comment, if you have that turned on to be required, you can set those up ahead of time. Inventory reports, inventory valuation, and at the top of this, there is a comment template right here where you can add anything that you want to add in there for somebody to use, where it's a little easier to just click on the drop down and select what they want. Requiring the comments is controlled through company control 4. It's make inventory adjustment comment required. If it's set to yes, then you can have the canned comments and everything set up. because oftentimes also the inventory is being done to actually reconcile to the inventory GL and the cost of goods account. And it's not always timely. You may complete your physical inventory on December 31st, but there's information that needs to be entered to adjust the data after that date. There is a user control. User control 3 has a switch, allow entry of date on adjustments to inventory. If you set that to yes for somebody, then they will be able to backdate it into the prior year so that in the end, your inventory valuation as of will reflect what it should be. If that is not set to yes, then it automatically uses the date of the actual adjustment. So it would be today's date, 10/29. After that, probably a good practice would be to go ahead and run your inventory audit report just to go ahead and see what changes were made. And so you would set this up for the dates of your actual physical inventory. And I'd normally run it to Excel, but I'm only going to use consumption. And this report shows you all of the different adjustments that were made. And way over here is where the comments are for whenever they actually do something. So that was measured, that was cut short, that one was damaged. These are all from credit memos. You can keep those off of the report by selecting to exclude credit memos and credit memo adjustment records, just because most of the time those are already accounted for at the job level. After that, there is a reconciliation process that my teammate, Christine Poplau, will be going through as far as how to reconcile your inventory general ledger account and your cost of goods, those sorts of things, including work that's in progress, taking care of the AP not invoiced, how you handle that, all those sorts of things to make sure that you have clean books for the end of the year.
Thanks, Dan. That was really helpful. Now let's get into the accounting side. So when we're dealing with the accounting side, there's several records that we need to look at to reconcile the inventory. We need to first look at our trial balance and make sure that it is completely adjusted and up to date. We also need to run several reports. But before we do that, I want to talk about what you should do prior to the count, in addition to what Dan mentioned. First, I want you to go in and run an inventory valuation. I like to review that valuation, look for any pricing issues, anything with small counts and obsolete items, and just take care of those and get those off of the records before I go in to do my physical count. Next, I want you to run a receiving report, AP not invoiced. And I'm going to run that for the year. And I've mentioned this several times in previous videos, but to find that, you need to go into the purchase order system, go into, I always print this to Excel because it's easier to work with. Go to print reports, receiving reports, and then pull down here for receiving report by product type, AP not invoiced. And because I'm doing this for the year, I'm going to run it for, like I said, I'm going to run it for the full year. I want to see anything that's sitting out there that is showing that I didn't properly job cost the AP when I received it, or I just haven't even entered that yet. So I'm going to print that report, and it is going to look like this report here, which is my AP. It's going to list the purchase order, what the vendor calls the product. Let me go ahead and make these so you can see the titles a little bit better. So we've got the PO, we've got who the vendor is, what the sequence is, we've got the date it was received. Expand that. What the unit cost is, you know, all this information. What I want to try to do before I do my inventory is try to get as many of these AP bills entered as I can. If I can't, I want to find out, like, why can't I? Is there an issue with the vendor not getting me an invoice? But really try to get as many of these in as you can. Then I'm going to review my open orders, just like Dan had indicated. But at this time, what I want you to do is I want you to go into sales processing, the order entry, and I want you to sort by job status, and you can even go up here and filter. So I've got different job statuses, and we've got done. Whatever your job status is that indicates that that job's ready to be invoiced, go in and invoice as many jobs as you can. The other thing I want you to do is also to look at the date, to sort those by date, and anything that's really old, find out why that job's still open, if there's material assigned. So really what we're doing before our physical is we're trying to clean up as much as we can before we're digging into the actual material we would have in our inventory. Then the day of the count, besides doing the steps that Dan indicated on the accounting side, what I want you to do is I want you to run an inventory valuation. I want you to print your audit report. So let's go in and show you where those items are in case you don't know. So we're going into our inventory control, inventory reports. We're going to run our inventory valuation, item number 4. And I just usually leave this wide open and I generate the report and then print it. After I do that, I'm going to run my inventory audit. Now, assuming that you have updated your inventory monthly, done reconciliations, you would only need to run this for the month that you're looking at. But if you haven't, you would want to run that audit report for as wide open as since your last time that you've made any adjustments. So as we print this report, we would put in our date. And here I'm looking at only consumption errors. I don't care if I've moved something from Bay 1 to Bay 2. So here is the inventory audit report. The next thing is that I want you to print that APR&I report again. I want to make sure that you've updated your general ledger so that there's no outstanding journal entries that need to be posted. And then I want you to prepare an inventory reconciliation using these reports. So I have done that here. And so I have taken my general ledger trial balance, got that amount here. I've got my audit report here. I have reviewed my audit report to make sure that there's nothing here that shouldn't be, that would not impact my general ledger, or that would not impact the general ledger. And I believe we've gone over that in a couple other videos. But something that you might want to consider is if there was a price adjustment done here and it was also done in AP. Sometimes people accidentally adjust the pricing here, but then you also fix it in AP. And then that APR&I report, like we discussed. And this is when we do a reconciliation. So we say, this is what my general ledger shows. I'm going to add any audit adjustments. I'm going to add any items that I've received that I haven't posted the AP bill, because those values are going to be here because I received the goods, and it will receive those goods at the cost per the purchase order. But if I haven't entered my AP bill, it's not here in my general ledger. So I'm going to add those items up and come up with an adjusted general ledger balance. I'm going to see what my valuation is and see what the difference is. And I can already tell here that my math is wrong. It should be that minus that. So it should be my valuation less my adjusted balance, because this is telling me I need an additional amount in my general ledger after these items to get to the valuation. So my adjustment is actually this amount plus this amount is going to equal my adjustment. Now, I do this before before I do the physical count, just to get an idea of where I am. Then the next thing I'm going to do is send the warehouse out. They're going to do their physical count. And after the count, I'm going to verify that everything's been scanned and counted. I'm going to go into the system and adjust any inventory items, and Dan covered that earlier in this video. And then if I'm preparing a manual count, I'm going to adjust all those items just like I would if I were scanning them. After that, then I'm going to redo this here. Now, between the time that I started the count and I end the count, my general ledger balance should not change. If it does change, then I'm going to go in and find out why did that change. This is very important that that general ledger balance doesn't change, and that's why I do this prior. My audit adjustment is probably going to be greater now. And it's probably, actually, it's going to be less because it's going to go negative most likely. Usually you see after a physical count, you're changing items and reducing it. If you're adding more items, that's great. Either one is fine. Just be prepared that this number may go from a positive adjustment to a negative. Again, my APR and I shouldn't change because nobody should be entering inventory AP bills at this point. And my valuation number should probably change. So my adjustment pre-count and post-count will most likely be different. And you're going to want to make the adjustment based off of the post-count. So those are the steps that we recommend that you do when you're doing a physical count. You're going to go through all the steps that Dan mentioned, and then on the accounting side, you're going to compare your pre-count and post-count reconciliation. Hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, please contact us at bmssupport@broadloom.com. Thank you.